Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. Welcome, Elon. It's an enormous pleasure to bring great minds together, and that's why my job as director of the Oxford Martin School is so fun. And meaningful because we are dealing with the greatest challenges of the 21st century. In Elon Musk, we have someone who is focusing on two key areas, transport and energy. He's an extraordinary intellect, but he combines his science with the business acumen and a commitment to society which is unusual. It's the combination of not only business, but also with science and knowing what to apply it for that makes him a really special visitor tonight. An extraordinary talent with the right commitment to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. He's the engineer and entrepreneur who builds and operates companies to solve global environmental, economic, and social challenges. He's the CEO and chief designer of Tesla Motors, you'll see the car outside, and CEO and chief technology officer of SpaceX. At SpaceX, Elon is the chief designer and has overseen the development of the rockets, which have taken it now twice to the space station. They've received the $1.6 billion NASA contract to provide commercial replacement for the cargo, and as he will tell us, no doubt, they have now got a commitment as well to take astronauts. It's the most extraordinary thing visiting the factory, as I was privileged to do, and to see not only the energy and commitment of Elon and his team, but also the originality, just how much of what they are doing is original, how much they are taking away. It has taken governments before. 4 governments have achieved what Elon has achieved. Never before has a private individual done so much, so quickly for space. In addition to his work on SpaceX, as if that wasn't enough, his work at Tesla is developing a car which has now won this year the automobile and the Auto Trends Automobile of the Year. Now, for those of us that don't follow cars, this is the equivalent of winning the the Grammys and the Oscars in the same year, or for us academics, 2 Nobel Prizes. It is an achievement which is quite remarkable, and having driven, he was kind enough to trust his Roadster to me. Having driven one of his cars, I felt like I was in a space rocket. It had this G-force, which I've never before experienced. This car, I believe, will revolutionize transport because it will enable people to see that you can do things without carbon, which were unimaginable before. In addition to this, he started and runs Solar City, which is developing and now the biggest producer of solar power systems in the US. He began at PayPal, which he co-founded, and all of you will know about PayPal. He became its CEO and then moved on to these other things. The Vice Chancellor mentioned that we have a South African connection. We went to the same high school, and we both escaped. He went from there to do his degrees at Pennsylvania and at Wharton, and in many ways has moved on from that. But the work that he was doing, including on supercapacitors, has continued to drive a lot of what he does today. It is this incredible combination of vision, bravery, and ability which has had him likened by many to a 21st century version of what Brunel was in the 19th century and Henry Ford in the 20th century. I have no doubt that he will benefit us in ways that we still do not imagine. He exemplifies the ambition of the Oxford Martin School and its interest in solving the problems of the 21st century, and it's a huge pleasure to invite him to address us.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's an honor to be here. This is an incredibly beautiful theater, and it's amazing to be in a place designed by Christopher Wren. And speaking of Brunel, actually, I'm a big fan of Brunel, and I have 5 boys, and I really wanted to name one of them Brunel, or Eisenbart. I like them. No luck. Hopefully, one in the future. I guess I'll just tell you the story of kind kind of how I came to be here, or the various things that I did, and maybe why I did them, and hopefully that's a bit helpful. And then we're going to have quite a long question and answer session. So I look forward to feel free to ask me any question, no matter how provocative or challenge what we're doing. I'm actually always interested in negative feedback, actually. So the way I started out was I did start out in South Africa, went to Pretoria Boys High, and then left actually by myself initially to go to Canada, and then the US to college. And graduating from undergrad, I had to sort of make a decision, and one path would have sort of led to Wall Street, and I guess quite a big salary, and then the other was to do grad studies and try to figure out a technical problem. And I didn't much like the first one, so I decided to go out to Silicon Valley and go to Stanford and try to work on ultracapacitors for use in electric vehicles. And I do actually think there's potential for a significant breakthrough in that area, and actually to have an energy storage mechanism that's better than batteries. It's not necessary for transport to go electric, but I think it is. It's something that would accelerate that. So I was sort of about to get into grad studies, and then the internet. It was clear that the internet was going to be something that would be very important to the future. So I thought, well, I could either sort of spend 5 years in a graduate program and discover that the answer is that there is no way to make a capacitor work, and perhaps get some nice papers published and that kind of thing, and but that would be the most unfortunate situation, I thought, because you can come to one of the possible things is to determine that success is not one of the possible outcomes. I couldn't actually bracket the uncertainty on that. So I thought I can either do that, or I can work on building elements of the internet. And this was in '95, so nobody had actually made any money on the internet. But I thought the internet would be something that would fundamentally change the nature of humanity, where it was like humanity gaining a nervous system, where all of a sudden any part of humanity would know what the collective would have access to the collective knowledge, and that's true. It's really quite a remarkable transformation. In the past, you'd have to, and if you wanted access to a lot of information, you'd have to be near a big library or something, like the Great Bodleian Library nearby, but that'd be the only way to gain access to information. And now with the internet, with everything online, you could be somewhere in the jungles of South America, and if you've got access to an internet connection, you have access to essentially all the world's information, with a tremendous amount of analytical power behind that. So I think it literally has gone from a situation where people would communicate almost like via osmosis. If you can imagine sort of a creature, a simple multicellular creature that would communicate via quite slow chemical signals. And now any part of humanity knows what every other part of humanity does immediately. It's pretty incredible. So anyway, I wanted to be part of building that, so I decided to do a couple of internet companies, and that actually worked out reasonably well. So the first one helped bring the media companies online, and then we sold that, and then started another company which you may have used called PayPal, and that we sold for actually a larger sum of money to eBay, and that left me in the fortunate position of having the capital to pursue the two other things that I thought would most affect the future of humanity, being sustainable energy, both the production and consumption of energy in a sustainable manner, which I think is arguably the most pressing problem of the 21st century, and then the other one, which is the extension of life beyond Earth. the one I did first was the space company. And the genesis of that is kind of interesting because at first I didn't think that it would be possible to create a rocket company. And I thought what would really make a difference is to have a mission to Mars, a small send a small payload to the surface of Mars that would get the public excited about to reignite the passion for space exploration such that we could go beyond what we did with the Apollo program. And I thought it was quite sad that the Apollo program represented the high watermark of human space exploration. It was not something that I was able to witness in real time because I was -2 when they landed. It just seemed as though that if I thought about the future, one where we were a true spacefaring civilization out there exploring the stars and making the things real that we read in science fiction books and movies, that seems like a really exciting future that sort of made me feel good about the future, and one where we were forever confined to Earth made me feel a bit sad. So that's really what I was trying to figure out is how do we reverse that? And then, like I said, at first I didn't think it would be possible to create a space company because it seemed like the province of governments. But so my first thought was, well, let's see if we can do a philanthropic mission to Mars and get the public excited about the idea of going there, and then that would lead to an increased budget for NASA, and then we could go there. That would hopefully work. So I figured out how to compress the cost of the spacecraft and the communication systems and the payload and so forth, and then it would have been a small greenhouse about 1 meter across, with seeds and dehydrated nutrient gel that would land. You'd hydrate the gel upon landing, and you'd have this great shot of green plants against a red background. In the US, that's called the money shot. So the public tends to respond to precedents and superlatives. So this would be the first life on another planet, the furthest that life's ever traveled. And I thought, okay, well, that would get people pretty excited, and maybe they could envision people being there. And we'd certainly be able to figure out a lot of engineering and scientific data about what it took to maintain plant life on the surface of Mars. So I got through most of that, and the thing I got hung up on was the rocket. So getting there in the first place. And there were the US options from Boeing and Lockheed were simply too expensive. I couldn't afford them. And so I went to Russia 3 times to negotiate purchasing an ICBM. Of course, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. So, I went there. So I did 3 visits there, and at the end of it, I was able to negotiate a price actually. To buy 3 of these things, 3 of the largest ICBMs in the Russian fleet, but they were still pretty expensive. And by the 3rd trip, I actually came to the conclusion that I was operating under the wrong premise. That I was actually mistaken about the willingness to send people to Mars to expand the space frontier, and it actually, in retrospect, it was quite silly of me to think that people were not interested in such a thing, or had lost the will to do this. In fact, people had really thought that it's not possible, or not possible for an amount of money that wouldn't materially affect their standard of living. So I came to the conclusion that even if we succeeded in doing this mission,